Welcome back, geography class. All right, so this is section 2.3. This is about population growth. And this is the current hot topic issue. Um, if there's anything to emphasize here, it's this simply because a lot of folks have this like general perception that, oh my gosh, the world population is much too high. And well, it again started from nothing, and here we are now. So this section does talk about population growth. So let's get into it. Population growth. Population increases rapidly in places where more people are born than die. I smoke Lee. And it declines in places where deaths outnumber births. Geographers most frequently measure population change in a country or the world as a whole by using three measures. One, natural increase rate. Two, crude birth rate. Three, crude death rate. The population of a place also increases when people move in and decreases when people move out. This element of change, migration, is discussed in chapter 3. Hi, Smokely. Excuse me. Just doing a little teaching here. All right, natural increase rate. The natural increase rate is the percentage by which a population grows in a year. The term natural means that a country's growth rate excludes migration. During the 21st century, the world natural increase rate has been 1.2, meaning that the population of the world has been growing each year by 1.2%. The world natural increase rate is lower today than its all-time peak of 2.2% in 1963, and it has declined since the 1990s. However, the natural increase rate during the second half of the 20th century was high by historical standards. Most of humanity's several hundred thousand year occupancy of Earth was characterized by a natural increase rate of essentially zero, and Earth's population was unchanged at perhaps a 500,000. About 75 million people are being added to the population of the world annually. This number represents a decline from the historic high of 88 million in 1989. The number of people added each year has dropped much more slowly than the natural increase rate because the population base is much larger now than in the past. World population increased from 3 to 4 billion in 14 years, from 4 to 5 billion in 13 years, from 5 to 6 billion in 12 years, and from 6 to 7 billion in 12 years. As the base continues to grow in the 21st century, a change of only 0.1% can produce very large swings in population growth. The rate of natural increase affects the doubling time, which is the number of years needed to double a population, assuming a constant rate of natural increase. At the early 21st century rate of 1.2% per year, world population would double in about 54 years. If the same natural increase rate continued through the 21st century, global population in the year 2100 would reach 24 billion, when the natural increase rate was 2.2% in 1963. Doubling time was 35 years. At the 2.2% rate continued into the 21st century, Earth's population would currently exceed 10 billion instead of 7 billion. A 2.2% natural increase rate through the 21st century would produce a total population of more than 50 billion in 2100. Yikes. More than 95% of the natural increase is clustered in developing countries. The natural increase rate exceeds 2% in most countries of sub-Saharan Africa, whereas it is negative in Europe, meaning that in the absence of immigrants, population actually is declining. Since 1980, 67% of the world's population growth has been in Asia, 20% in Africa, 9% in Latin America, and 4% in North America. Europe, including Russia, has had declining population since 1980. Regional differences and natural increase rates mean that most of the world's additional people live in the countries that are at least able to maintain them. So a lot to break down there. Number one, you see the impact of something like immigration. Even though Europe's population, sorry, my cat is not interested in learning about population increase. Apologize. Europe has actually seen a population decline. There's less births. There's more people living longer. So their natural increase rate without migration involved is actually going down. So moving on to the second part of 2.3, or population growth, page 2. Come on, kid. All right, so here we go. We're getting into the things that impact the natural increase rate now, which is birth rate and death rate. We see some interesting figures here. Just breaking it down. Regional distribution of population growth, you see a majority of it occurring in Asia, South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, and North Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and North America is only coming in at 4%. All right, so here we go. Fertility. The birth rate, or crude birth rate, is the total number of live births in a year for every 1,000 people alive in a society. A crude birth rate of 20 means that for every 1,000 people in a country, 20 babies are born over a 1-year period. The world map of crude birth rates mirror the distribution of natural increase rate. As is the case with natural increase rates, the highest crude birth rates are in sub-Saharan Africa, and the lowest are in Europe. Many sub-Saharan African countries have a crude birth rate over 40, whereas many European countries have a crude birth rate below 10. Mortality. The crude death rate is the total number of deaths in a year for every 1,000 people alive in the society. Comparable to the crude birth rate, the crude death rate is expressed as the annual number of deaths per 1,000 in the population. The crude death rate does not follow the same regional pattern as the natural increase rate and crude birth rate. The combined crude death rate for all developing countries is actually lower than the combined rate for all developed countries. Furthermore, the variation between the world's highest and lowest crude death rates is much less extreme than the variation in crude birth rates. The highest crude death rate in the world is 17 per 1,000, and the lowest is 1, a difference of 16, whereas crude birth rates for individual countries range from 7 per 1,000 in a population to 52, spread of 47. Why does Denmark, one of the world's wealthiest countries, have around the same crude death rate as the Gambia, one of the poorest? Why does the United States, with its extensive system of hospitals and physicians, have a higher crude death rate than Mexico and nearly every country in Latin America? The answer is that the populations of different countries are at various stages in an important process known as the demographic transition, discussed on the next page and in the next video from me. So things that are impacting population increase, all you really need to think about are the things that impact a birth, things that impact a death. And in geography, we have these numbers that are given to us: CBRs, CDRs, that represent both of these things. And as we will see in the next section, these rates pretty much reflect what's going on in each country. And for some places, there's not as many babies being born for a variety of reasons. The empowerment of females, availability of contraception, birth control. Why are people dying at a higher rate in other countries? Well, maybe the population is older in some countries and younger in others. And again, it really, once you just get your hands on a population pyramid, which will be covered later in this chapter, you'll see that depending on the country, they're at different spots in that in the demographic transition. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Big takeaway here: got to know what natural increase rate is. You have to know what doubling time is, and more importantly, things that impact it: amount of babies being born, amount of people dying per 1,000. So that'll wrap that up. 2.4 will be next. See you next time.